Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Shooty Excavating, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Buy-Right Auto, Decatur County Recycling, and Russ Hubler Ford. Ryan Higginbotham, Tom Fleming, Jason Simpson live here in studio with you. Josh joining us via satellite from the wilds of Wisconsin. Gentlemen, how are we doing this morning?
Peachy.
Fantastic.
And Josh, are you still?
Oh, he's on.
He's on.
Josh,
Oh, sorry, fellas. Sorry.
Oh, there you are.
I'm here.
You
I'm
fell
trying to
asleep
find
at the wheel.
I'm trying to find my dang headphones, and I don't know where they're at. So it's yeah. Anyway,
Well, you don't even have a toddler yet, so you can't blame it on her because she's not up and like mobile taking stuff yet, is she?
well, she's crawling around quite a bit, so we're pretty much on our toes at all times at this point. So
there is a chance that she's taken them and put them somewhere because she's
I don't know.
already doing what kids do and torturing their parents on purpose.
there's
Just
there's
for
a
their
better
own
than
entertainment.
there's a better than 99.9% chance that I don't know where they're at. So and it was my fault. Yeah, I mean, I had to get one of those air tags and keep it on my wallet, and I still lose my wallet all the time. So
Scott is saying, turn your mic on to me. I don't know why it's on, Scott.
Oh, you got it plugged into 4. That's why. Turn up on slider number 4.
No, you're in 4. I'm in 1. But I'm still talking on this. I'm not even using the headset mic.
Huh.
Scott, can you hear me now? I don't know what's going on. Well, while this is possibly getting resolved, we started and we have 4 already? We have 4 hot take hotels?
Yeah.
I believe so. No, maybe 5, because I think I did 2. And then Tom did 1, Josh did 1. Yeah. So we are well underway. But this week, and he promises it's a good one, so no he didn't raise the pressure level on himself or anything by that statement. That's like his typical by a million prediction here. So he says, no, it's like I'm in a bucket. I have no idea. I'm talking into the microphone.
Pull that mic over. Try that one.
How about now, Scott? Is this better? Who knows?
Great, as you said, riveting
This
radio.
is riveting radio. And then, I mean, the streaming side of it is even better. But, all right. No pressure or anything here, Ryan. But whose turn is it to check into the Hot Take Hotel?
This week on the Hot Take Hotel, we have none other than one of our favorite teams of all time on this show, none other than Penn State. I believe that Penn State is going to run the table this year. They will go 12-0. They will win the Big Ten regular season championship, and they will win the Big Ten championship game in December at Lucas Oil Stadium. I believe that going into week number 4 against Oregon, they will be 3-0.
He said you're incredibly loud, which BJ would be happy about.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
There you go.
They will go into the horseshoe and win.
You're good on radio, but there's a little trouble with YouTube picking you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's YouTube. Way to go, YouTube.
Now, Ryan, your mom says you're too loud.
I give up.
Jeez, Mom.
Is this where as a single adult male, I can say that's what women do? That never happened.
I'm gonna stay away from that.
Yeah, I'm not
Make
touching
sure
that
I
with a
qualify.
1,000-foot pole.
Yep. So anyway,
But
continue, Ryan.
they will, as I said, they will win against Oregon. They will go into Iowa and beat Iowa. They will go into the horseshoe and beat Ohio State. And unfortunately, they will beat IU at home, which, by my opinion, will be a top 10 matchup at the time. And then they will finish the regular season beating Michigan State, beating Nebraska, and beating the absolute brakes off Rutgers to end the season. And they will go 12-0. They have returned multiple. Now, I understand that we all have our questions about Drew Allar and James Franklin. Now, I understand that. James Franklin is still at the helm of Penn State. But I truly believe that this year is different. This year, it's a new era. Not just because Ohio State is coming off a national championship, but I believe the Big Ten is not open this year. There are only a couple teams who have a true chance. But I believe that Penn State has undoubtedly the best chance to run the table, go 12-0. Drew Allar won't win the Heisman, but has a Heisman-like season. And they run the table. They win the Big Ten regular and Big Ten championship game in December at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Are you going to finish that with? Are you saying national championship too?
No national championship.
Okay. So how far do they get in the playoffs?
Oregon last year. They lose their first game.
Okay. All right, Tom.
I think he should believe that. I'm not 100% sure that he does. I'm going to say that he doesn't believe that. But when you look at what Penn State is returning, this is the best shot that James Franklin has had with what they have coming back. You know, I can speak on the Ohio State side of it. They're replacing 8 starters on both sides of the ball, plus a brand new quarterback that's only thrown 12 passes in his entire college career. And plus the other thing for Penn State, I remember back in the late 70s, I think it was like 77, when Tony Dorsett won the Heisman Trophy. And before he went pro, he changed the pronunciation. In college, he was Dorset. Then when he went to the pros, he changed it to Dorset. Drew Allar, who for the last 3 years has been Aller, he changed the pronunciation of his name. So that in and of itself is probably another reason that Penn State should go 12-0. I don't think they will. I think James Franklin will mess something up somewhere along the lines. I'm going to say that Ryan does not believe that.
Josh, you want to weigh in
Yeah.
opinion?
Yeah. So I'm going to first talking about Penn State. I mean, we all know what we think of James Franklin, and looking at their schedule, they do start off with an IU like Nevada, Florida International, and Villanova. But look, you know, I'm not super high on Oregon this year, but and I don't think that Indiana can go into Penn State because it's going to be a whiteout, because it's going to be their biggest game of the year. Clearly, it's going to be number 1 Penn State against, or number 2 Penn State against number 1 Indiana. But I think you know, until they beat Ohio State, they're not better than Ohio State. And for some reason, I feel like on the show, I'm higher on Ohio State than everybody else, because a few weeks ago, didn't you all pick Texas to beat Ohio State?
I didn't.
Okay. All right. I thought maybe you said Arch Manning was going to go in there and upset him, but
No.
I don't think Ryan believes this either, just because I know what we all think about James Franklin, and I know what we all think about Penn State. Penn State to us is, you know, that team that we know that they're going to go 10-2 every year. They're kind of like the Jeff Fisher led Tennessee Titans from way back when. Nobody does 8-8 like Jeff Fisher. Nobody does 10-2 like James Franklin. So I don't believe Ryan believes that Penn State is running the table in the Big Ten.
Well, kind of to Tom's point, you have to look at this season and say, if he doesn't do it now, it's not going to happen. I mean, this is all of the stars have aligned for him. You get Alar back. You've got Penn State has for years been known as linebacker U. You know, they're known for their defense. Their defense is going to be top notch again. It's going to come down to Alar being able to not lose games for them, basically manage it, because they've got two of the three best backs in the nation. I mean, the best one resides in South Bend, but the next two might both be at Penn State, and so they're going to have a tremendous run game, which in today's high-tempo college football will be a huge advantage to them, because they're going to be able to play both ways. If they want to salt a victory away, they turn to the run game. But then if they need to push the ball down the field, they're going to be able to with Alar and his abilities. I am in no way putting him in this category, but Josh, for the last 4 years, what have we always said about IU basketball? Didn't matter who was on the floor, you still had that one guy on the sideline. Well, James Franklin is still on the sideline, and it's just like we say about so many other things here. Until he proves otherwise, how can you not think he's going to find a way to choke in the biggest moments? That's just what he does. It's in his DNA. So based on just our history with Penn State and the thoughts and opinions that we all have on them and the talk that we've had, for that reason, and I'm going to go with a tell here. I don't know that Ryan would be a great poker player, because throughout his description, how many times did he say he honestly thinks this?
That's
He
true.
truly thinks this.
Yeah.
I think he was trying to do a little subliminal messaging to us to get us to fall into his corner with as emphatic as he was about it. So for those two reasons, I'm going to say Ryan doesn't believe this hot take. And the thing is, I'm not saying this isn't a hot take, because that is a good one. It's a hot take to say that about Penn State, because we know they find a way to not come up big. But it is something that could truly come to fruition. It could be a reality this year. So Ryan, what's the verdict? Do you believe that Penn State's running the table and winning all of those huge games, whether on the road or at home? They're winning the regular season Big Ten title and the Big Ten championship game, but then they would be losing in the quarterfinals, right?
Yes.
That would be their first game, because if they did that, they would be the number 1 or number 2 seed overall.
I do truly believe this.
Oh!
I do.
Oh my!
I thought about this long and hard. The two things that really came to me about all of this, the fact that two of, I'd say, some of the best backs in college football, 2,000-yard rushers in one single season are coming back. And like you said, Jason, in the world we live in with the high-tempo college football, you are either going down and scoring in 6 or 7 plays in 2.5 minutes, or you're going to salt that game away and score in 15 plays, 8 minutes. The other factor that I really thought was how Penn State and their season ended last year to Notre Dame. Drew Alar.
Wait. Could you say that again? How their season ended?
Notre Dame.
Oh, thank you so much.
You mean the national championship runners-up?
Hey, it doesn't matter. Tom, I was the state final runner-up, and I'm not ashamed of it.
Good point.
I mean,
Touche.
a little disappointed, but
Yeah,
I mean,
touche.
at least we got there. Anyway, go ahead.
But I remember how it ended, and Drew Alar, he threw that interception. He's going to come back. He's got to. And these couple factors, and just the way their schedule just breaks down, you have 3 cupcakes, then your first big test. It's at home, it's at 7:30, and it's on NBC against an Oregon team who their quarterback is probably going to be a true freshman. Your next big test might be going to Iowa, Kinnick Stadium and the Wave. That's a big thing. You never know what can happen in Iowa. But the first true big test, going to the Horseshoe, can they get it done? Their best chance was 8 years ago when Saquon Barkley took the opening touchdown all the way back? I do truly believe that they can beat them. And then the third test, Indiana, a team who we're all high on, who we all think is going to do well. And then you have Michigan State, Nebraska, and Rutgers, three of the most middle teams in the Big Ten for the past couple years. It screams 12-0. I truly believe it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll say that. But when it comes down to it on December, whatever Saturday it is, Penn State will be the Big Ten champions.
So I'm just going through. Everybody loves Drew Allar, right? All the NFL draft analysts. I mean, he's 6'5", 235. He can run it a little bit, enough to escape pressure. But here's why they're not going 12-0. And the 2 years that Drew Allar has started, they played 10 top 25 teams. Those 10 top 25 games, he's thrown for an average of 166 yards. And that's even with an outlier in 2023 playing Ole Miss in a bowl game and losing 38-25 and throwing for 295 yards. So he's throwing for an average of 166 yards a game, and they've won 3 of those 10 games. So they're 4-6. They beat number 19 Illinois last year, which I know what we all think of Illinois. In 2023, they beat number 24 Iowa, where he threw for a whopping 166 yards. Then they beat Boise State and SMU, which you can say, yes, they made the college football playoffs last year, but in no way was Boise State the number 3 ranked team, and that's why they've redone the college football playoff ranking system, I believe. Is that correct? They've redone that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then they beat SMU 38-10, where he threw for 127 yards. Now, I know it's not all yards and it's not all quarterbacks and everything, because they do have Katron Allen and Singleton coming back, 2,000-yard rushers. But in the college football playoffs last year, in the Big Ten championship, so in the playoffs, his completion percentage was against SMU, and he threw for 59% completion percentage for 127 yards. That's Anthony Richardson level college production. So the guy doesn't step up in big games. James Franklin doesn't step up in big games. When they played Ohio State last year and lost 20-13, he threw for 146 yards and an interception on 60% completion. So even the game they beat Illinois, not upset, but beat Illinois when Illinois was ranked, for 0 touchdowns, 0 picks, and 135 yards. This guy doesn't step up in big games. James Franklin doesn't step up in big games. And they have to go to Ohio State. So, yes, they have everything going for them. Oregon may be down a little bit with their quarterback situation. We don't know what Julian Sayan's going to be for Ohio State. But I think Ohio State just reloads every single year. And they're going to have enough talent with their 2 big receivers returning at Ohio State, even losing Ibuka, that Julian Sayan's going to come in with a great situation. They're not going to Ohio State and winning. And Ohio State's going to beat them up, and they're going to pound them, and then they're going to lose to Indiana at home the next week. So I think they go 10-2 in the regular season, and they're fighting to get into the college football playoff.
And you just mentioned it, and Tom will have to tell us what's the receiver's name that's back at Ohio State? Jeremiah Smith. Like, there's talk that if he reaches his level of talent, like if he hits that maximum mark that his talent says that he is, they're saying there's a possibility he's a top 5 receiver in the history of college football.
Yeah.
He's got that kind of freaky talent. So, yeah, you lose Ibuka, but, Julian Sayan starts in, is he a true freshman?
No, redshirt.
Redshirt freshman. So he would be starting his first college football game.
Yes.
That's a nice little safety net to have behind you. And, Tom has mentioned it before, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens now with play calling, because Chip Kelly's gone and they turned it over to Brian Hartline,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So how much trust is Ryan Day going to have in Brian Hartline? The first sign of any trouble is he going to go back to calling plays? And, Tom, you as an Ohio State fan know what happens when that happens.
Yeah.
They get ultra conservative. And to me, that is the only way that Penn State is able to go in to Columbus and beat Ohio State. I don't see a world where Penn State is ready for prime time in a situation like that. Now, if that's neutral field or at Penn State, I give them a little more of a chance, but and you know I don't bet for real, but depending on the line, I'm probably picking Ohio State 95% of the time, if probably 99.9% of the time at Ohio State, and then 95% of the time, but I give Penn State just a little more chance if it's neutral site or at Penn State.
You know, the big thing for me when it comes to Ohio State is going to be in that first game against Texas in the national semifinals last year. Texas held Jeremiah Smith to 1 reception for 3 yards. I want to see that what Ryan Day and Brian Hartline have put together that will change that, because if they go this year and Jeremiah Smith has 1 reception for 3 yards, Ohio State loses that game this year.
Well, because think about that. We go back 2 years ago, before IU was the national power that they are. Did you like what I did there?
I did.
Josh will remember this. I mean, remember that it was the opening game of the season, IU and Ohio State.
It was 23-3 final score.
But remember how inept the play calling was. They had Marvin Harrison Jr., who you wouldn't even known he was on the roster. And it wasn't based solely on IU's lockdown defense. It was good, but I mean, we have seen what happens when Ryan Day can't release that control and trust in his coordinators. And so, to me, that would be one thing that could spell doom for them, because just like we said earlier, with their ability to run the ball, and I'm 100% in the camp that Josh is, Drew Allard, to me, it's all hype. It's all name based on what he was coming into Penn State. And then he's been just good enough that people aren't heaping negativity on him. He's been just good enough. Penn State's been just good enough that he kind of stays under the radar a little bit from negativity, and people just continue to talk him up. But it will come down to that run game. And if Ryan Day allows Ohio State to get conservative, well, next thing you know, Penn State's on a 15-play drive that lasts 10 minutes, and next thing you know, you look up and you're only down 10-0. But man, 10 points when you're a conservative play caller and Penn State can control the game like that. If I'm an Ohio State fan, that's when I start to get real nervous. But I don't think you're going to get to that point.
Yeah, and for me, when it comes to the Penn State side of it, if Ohio State is going to struggle, it's going to be early in the season. I think by the time they get to the Penn State game, they'll have everything figured out, and it might be, I don't know, just worst case scenario, it might be Ohio State in the top 15 somewhere, not in the top 5 or top 10. But anyway, by the time that game comes around, I think Ohio State will be ready for Penn State. And again, like we've all said, it comes down to James Franklin can't win the big game. Is this going to be the year where he actually finishes the job with one of these close games?
Well, we know that Josh only has faith in one quarterback in the entire world of college football, and that's
Fernando Mendoza.
Exactly.
Fernando Mendoza.
So, in saying that, you've already talked about your doubts that you have when it comes to Arch Manning and to Drew Allard. When we are sitting here in January and having this conversation about the college football season that is wrapping up, they're in their playoffs and things like that, who do you think has a better season this year individually? Will it be Arch Manning or will it be Drew Allard? Who's the lesser of two evils in your mind?
Man, I've at least seen Drew Allard play enough where you can make some sort of predictions on what Drew Allard is going to do. I think Drew Allard has all the skill set, but then there's just something missing with Drew Allard that I can't really put a finger on it. It doesn't sound like the draft analysts can put a finger on it, on what it is about Drew Allard. Like, he has the talent, he can move a little bit, but he's just, I don't know if he's just not super accurate or what. I don't know. I'm going to say Arch Manning just because I've seen Drew Allar, and I'm so far outside of the Drew Allar camp that it really can't. They can't get any lower. But of the top teams, of the top 15 teams, if I'm looking at the quarterback situation, Penn State has one of the worst quarterback situations of those top 15 teams. Now, do I know every single quarterback in the top 15? I don't. But if I go down and say Arch Manning at Texas, Julian Sayin at Ohio State, Julian Sayin 2 years ago was the second-ranked recruit college quarterback recruit or high school quarterback recruit coming out to DJ Lagway at Florida.
And he went to Alabama first,
yeah,
right?
He wanted to go play for Nick Saban,
That's
so
right.
that tells you something about talent evaluation.
Yeah, so, and then Clemson with Cade Klubnik, I know what they have there. I know what LSU has with Garrett Nussmeier. And I just know what these guys are. Now, I'm looking at the top 25, and I still can't believe Indiana's not in the top 15. Indiana's returning an All-American line at linebacker and at defensive back. As good as Curtis Rourke was last year, by all accounts, they've upgraded substantially to Fernando Mendoza. They bring back all of their skill position players, the receivers. They reloaded their running back room. Their offensive line is better. And this was a team in Indiana, and I still don't understand why Illinois is getting the credit that they are, and Indiana is not. Going back to your original question, I have to trust Arch Manning, even though I haven't seen him play over Drew Allar.
So, I agree with you when it comes to Arch and Allar, that I think Arch ends up with the better season, but not so much because of what Allar has shown. I give Arch the advantage in two key areas. Number one being he's just got more playmakers around him. I just feel like Texas always has speed on the perimeter. They've always got good backs. I just think he's got a more dynamic. Now, granted, obviously, the running backs at Penn State are better. We've already been through that. But to me, the key difference is he has Steve Sarkisian on the sideline, who that guy, he's not afraid to try anything. He'll turn it loose and let it rip. He kind of reminds me of a college version of Andy Reid, from the standpoint of they're not afraid to experiment when it comes to formations and when it comes to trick plays or just different things. He's very inventive when it comes to things like that. So I think that is going to give Arch an advantage over Allar as well, because James Franklin is and look, I do not begrudge a coach that gets comfortable in what they're doing, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But for Penn State and for James Franklin, it is broke when it matters the most. In those big-time games, he gets too stuck in his beliefs and doesn't look to really change and go outside the box if necessary. And so I think that's why when you look at the two at the end of the year, Arch will have had the better year, because he's got some of those advantages over Allar. And, like you said, we haven't seen Arch play yet. And maybe, for all we know, just based on sheer talent alone, maybe Allar is the more talented quarterback, but I think those baked-in advantages that Arch has are what will push him over the top, and he will be looked at as having had the better year.
Yeah, I think another thing that Arch Manning has that Drew Allar doesn't have is the ability to run the football when stuff breaks down. I mean, I know his last name is Manning, and we don't exactly think of the Manning last name as Lamar Jackson or anything along those lines, but Arch Manning can run. He can make plays with his feet when things break down. That's something that, even though Drew Allar can escape pressure a little bit, he's not Arch Manning. He's not going to go out there and rip off a 20 to 30 yard run on a 3rd and 9. And that's what Arch can do. Arch has fantastic mechanics. He looks the part. I mean, he's the same size as Drew Allar, but can run. So, yeah, I think Arch Manning has a better season. I think Fernando Mendoza has a better season than Drew Allar. I think Garrett Nussmeier does. I think Cade Klubnik does. The dude at Illinois, his name's escaping me right now, but I think he has a better season than Drew Alar. But at some point in time, and I think you probably summed it up perfectly, Jason, the difference between James Franklin and Steve Sarkisian when it comes to the offensive side of the ball is too glowing of a difference to really give that edge to Alar. And they do have 2,000-yard backs. Is James Franklin going to trust Drew Alar enough in a big game to win the game with his arm, or is it just going to be every game going to be 13-10? And when you allow those teams with lesser talent to hang around to try to win games 13-10, that's when an Iowa can sneak up and get you. That's when a Michigan State can sneak up and get you. Things along those lines. So I just don't have enough trust in James Franklin in big games to be aggressive enough to go out and win himself a national championship.
Well, this is outside of Hot Take Hotel. This is the part of the show I've been most looking forward to since yesterday, because I can't wait to hear Tom's breakdown. Tom, yesterday was a very bad day for Cleveland State. Now, what do I mean by that? In the history of NCAA punishments, when one of the big boys does anything, it never fails what the outcome is, what the punishment is. But then the old joke has always been, like you go back to the fake class issue at North Carolina. When that came out and they said, oh, the NCAA is going to punish North Carolina, they said, yeah, it's a bad day for Cleveland State. I don't know why poor Cleveland State got picked on, but they always hammer the smaller programs if they do anything. And then yesterday, news finally came out of what the overall punishment was going to be in the Connor Stallion sign-stealing scandal with Michigan. So, Tom, being the huge Michigan lover that you are, why don't you give us a breakdown of the news that came out yesterday?
You know what? It doesn't matter. I mean, they won the national championship. They're not going to take that away, so it's really no big deal. I did have to laugh a little bit, though, is that they gave Sharon Moore an additional game suspension, but it's not until next year that he's suspended for that other game. And then they got fined like $20 million. No bowl ban, nothing like that. Chris Partridge, former linebackers coach for Michigan, he was one of them that deleted a bunch of emails. There was nothing done about that. The only part that really made me laugh about it was when they said that the reason they didn't come down harder was because none of the coaches were still around from then. It's like Sharon Moore was one of them that was deleting emails from Connor Stallions. So, yeah, Sharon Moore was there. But, I mean, it's that thing, especially when it takes this long to come to a decision, why punish kids that had absolutely no part in any of it? If you're going to come down on somebody, come down on the coaching staff. The NCAA obviously thought that an additional one-game suspension of Sharon Moore was enough. And, when you have a program that has all the money that a Michigan does, a $20 million fine is like not really a big deal.
That's spitting in the ocean at that point when that is that fine levied. But can we all agree there is no dumber punishment? And trust me, we all know how dumb the NCAA can be. Is there a dumber punishment than making teams vacate titles? Like, erase it from your memory. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
No, that's actually not true. We went out on the field or we went out on the court and we won that game. So you're just going to rewrite history. Like, there is no dumber punishment than that. But in saying that, it is just it is so deliciously NCAA. And I actually agree with what they did, but it's like, why now? Well, I know why now, because it's Michigan and it's a big boy. But why now are they finally coming out and saying it makes no sense to us to punish kids who weren't around Michigan at that time, when they said that's why they didn't get a bowl ban or postseason ban or anything like that? That makes perfect sense to me. If you don't punish in the moment and it's a drawn-out process like this was, I totally agree with that line of thinking that the NCAA takes. But what is so deliciously hypocritical about it is the fact that now is when you choose to. Why all of a sudden are we changing our thinking? Well, we know why. Again, because it's Michigan, and Michigan is a Big Ten school. They're a blue blood they're a blue blood Big Ten football iconic brand. That's why. Again, if this is Cleveland State, how much you want to bet they're not bowl eligible for probably 4 or 5 years. But because it's Michigan, and again, I agree with the thinking of not punishing the players who are there now, because there isn't a kid on that roster who would have had anything to do. Now, they may have been like freshmen at the point, but they weren't playing meaningful minutes. And you're going to punish the backup punter, because, well, he was on the roster back when they won the national title. It makes no sense. And so I agree with that line of thinking, but how hypocritical is the NCAA, which we already knew. So I just laughed when I heard, because you give a show cause to Jim Harbaugh. Boys and girls, he didn't plan on coming. Even if it wasn't there, he wasn't coming back to college football. He's already been there, done that at his alma mater. Like, to me, Jim Harbaugh, and I don't even think he would do it. Would Alabama be the only place that might be able to lure Jim Harbaugh back had he not had this show cause put against him? Because I think it's like 10 years or something. Jim Harbaugh doesn't care about that.
No.
Connor Stallions has additional years. Who's going to hire Connor Stallions now anyway? Like, so much of this punishment was just goofy. But, again, it's the NCAA, so what did we expect?
I'm of the opposite belief of everybody on this show. I think you should punish kids that are the school. It's the school, and it affects the kids. But I think you should punish those kids. I do think that you should vacate those wins. I do think you should vacate that national championship, because look at what happened. The sign stealing and everything else led to against program. Look what they were before they started doing this. Like, Urban Meyer broke Jim Harbaugh. Had to start stealing signs and doing all this stuff. Like, that's your school. Your school wants to do that to make the amount of money that they made. They made way more than $20 or $30 million that they're going to get fined off that national championship run. Way more than that. So that fine means nothing. And I agree there. But you want this, if this is going to continue, or if you want this to stop continuing to happen, then you do have to punish the school, and you do have to punish the kids. And you're punishing the kids, but those kids would be free and clear to transfer anywhere that they wanted to transfer. So the only way to stop this is to vacate wins. And I know it still happened. I understand that. We all know you can't rewrite history, and you can't unsee what happened during that season, but it could still it's a permanent record. And again, in the long run, does it mean much? Probably not. But you have to find something to punish these schools to stop that from happening. And you know what? You committed to Michigan in 2024, but you knew this was pending. You knew this was hanging over their head. Kids will go to Michigan now because they knew nothing was going to happen at the end of the day. But these signs that they were stealing led directly to a winning national championship season. And you can't argue that it didn't, because look where they were at. People were talking about firing Jim Harbaugh. All of a sudden they start doing this, and then they go on and win a national championship, and then Jim Harbaugh leaves. Like, Sherrone Moore was on the coaching staff. He's the head coach at this point in time. Why the hell is he not fired? He's getting fired. And somebody who wasn't on staff can take over, or they could hire whatever, but he should be fired, not these ridiculous 2-game suspension this year and 1-game suspension next year. So, the NCAA is never going to do anything right, but they should be punishing the school. Michigan should be having necessarily the death penalty. They shouldn't lose a ton of scholarships and things along those lines, but they should have their more substantial fine. Their wins eradicated from the books, Sharon Moore should be fired, and they should be put on a 2 to 3 year bowl ban, and not be allowed to play in the Big Ten championship if that was the case. You have to do something to stop this from happening.
Well,
because why wouldn't Michigan State do this? Why wouldn't they go out and cheat some more, go on and win a national championship or play in the college football playoffs, and raise the level of their school just for 3 years later, a silly fine and really nothing else to happen? It doesn't matter. You're already at the upper echelon. If you win a national championship, your program has gotten into a different tier. So get yourself in that different tier and then deal with the consequences after that, which are very minimal.
Well, I think back to the original point that the NCAA isn't going to truly, air quotes here, harm one of the blue bloods. You know, if they do what you're saying and they do put this bowl ban out there and no postseason stuff with the landscape of college football right now, that is the virtual death penalty to Michigan, simply because it's so easy for kids to leave. Those kids that are decent even at Michigan are leaving. Like, I'm not going to not have an opportunity, to play in the college football playoff and to get seen and do all these things. Now, NIL does kind of level that playing field, because there's going to be kids who they're going to go, what do they say now? Get that bag.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they say? So you are going to have kids that are going to chase that, but I don't think you're going to get a collection of talent. And the NCAA doesn't want that. The NCAA knows that it's good for their overall product if Michigan is one of those teams that is relevant and they are in the conversation, whether they're winning the Big Ten or whether they're actually in the college football playoff. As long as they are relevant in the top 25, that's what the NCAA wants. And Josh, you love conspiracy theories. Convince me I'm wrong that the NCAA wants teams like Michigan, wants teams like Ohio State and USC and Oklahoma and Texas and Georgia and Alabama and Clemson and Florida State and Miami. I can keep going with these names from the past. You can't convince me that the NCAA doesn't want those teams to be the ones at the forefront of college football, and they cringe when it's IU, when it's SMU, when it's Arizona State. The NCAA hates that. They love it when it's a one-year story, but now 2 years in a row, you've got IU, you've got SMU, you've got Arizona State, yet again in the national conversation. They're just happy that all these other teams are loaded with talent as well. Because if those were the three big names right now in college football, the NCAA as a whole would be shaking in their boots.
Well, then the only thing that you can do, and you're 100% right. Of course, that's what the NCAA wants. And if IU does this for 5, 6, 7 straight years, then maybe that's what the NCAA wants as well. But the only way that you can stop this from happening is maybe even add an extra zero to that $20 million fine.
Yeah.
Like, allow the coaches to still be there, players to continue to play, don't bowl ban them, but make the fine $200 million. And that really, like, I'm honestly asking that question. Would Ohio State and their alumni and their school, or Miami, let's use Miami, because Ohio State won it without doing that. Let's use Miami. Would Miami pay $200 million in fines in 3 years if they win a national championship?
Absolutely.
I know Texas would.
Yeah.
$100 million worth it. Indiana, it's probably not worth it, right? Purdue is not worth it. Illinois is not worth it. But Texas, Miami, Florida State, Florida, like $200 million fine even enough?
Probably not.
Well, but to your point, too, $200 million is not insignificant to anybody.
But you know what I'm
But
you know what
no,
I'm
no,
saying?
no,
Like,
no.
what's the
I'm
number?
totally agreeing with you, because I think when you start to get to those levels, like the dumb thing that they always say, lack of institutional control. What does that mean? Well, in this instance, I promise you, if the numbers get to that level, there's going to be institutional control. They're going to be sure that, well, as sure as you can be, that there aren't things like this happening, because $20 million, I mean, my goodness gracious, is that even what they get in revenue sharing? Is that the number?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's 24 million.
So, like, there you go. The money's already there, and trust me, I knew it was there before they even got that revenue sharing money. So, $20 million, I mean, to a university that's that size, with their outreach and their alumni base and their fan base and all the things that they have, the national brand that they are, I mean, $20 million is nothing to Michigan. So I think that's why, and I agree with you, Josh, you've got to really hit them hard in the pocketbook and make that an astronomical number. And then I promise you that athletic department and probably the university president are stepping in and saying, okay, hey, this thing's going to be so closely monitored, you're not going to be able to change T-shirts without us knowing it.
Yeah, the first thing is college football just needs to break away from the NCAA completely. They need to have some other organization that sets the rules, takes care of all that kind of stuff. The second point that I had, it completely went out of my mind. So,
Okay.
I don't disagree with the college football needing to break away, but what does that look like? It's been 50 years that they've played college football, and for it to break away and be its own separate thing, like, you'd have to redo all the TV contracts. You'd have to, there's so much tape that you'd have to get over to have them essentially break away from the NCAA. I just don't, if you would have asked me 18 months ago, I would have said, yeah, it's happening. Or it should happen. It could happen. But I just don't see any way that can happen with the way that now they have the college football playoff, and it's going to continue to expand. It's going to 16 teams. They have revenue sharing now. With NIL, you can pay players. Like, I'm not saying the NCAA is doing anything right with this. It was 5 years too late, right? But they are still making some changes to make it more enticing to stay with the NCAA. But I don't even know what that looks like if they go in a separate direction and break off. And I don't even know how that's accomplished, to be honest with you.
Yeah, my second point that I was going to make about Michigan and the $20 million, they had Dave Portnoy write him $1 million check so that they could steal Bryce Underwood away from LSU. You're going to tell me that somebody like Portnoy is not going to spend another $1 million, $5 million, whatever, to pitch in to pay that $20 million fine?
Oh, 100%, because you look at that, Dave Portnoy is one of those guys, because everybody always shouts Mark Cuban for Indiana. Mark Cuban loves IU, but he's not a fanboy like Dave Portnoy is. Now, Portnoy is not worth near what Mark Cuban is, but Dave Portnoy is not hurting. We'll just say that. And so I can definitely see him. And the thing, this is why I love Dave Portnoy, because he's not afraid to flaunt it. He'll get on social media, or he'll put out a YouTube video or something telling you exactly how much, or it'll be on his podcast. He'll tell you exactly how much he spent. Here's the check that I'm sending to Michigan. He'll show it live on air. He does not care. He is such a fanboy, and if Michigan continues to win, that's all Dave Portnoy is concerned about, and I am here for all of it.
And this is why $200 million. Yes, the NCAA president or the Michigan president would step in, but a gentleman by the name of David Booth just gave the University of Kansas $300 million. $300 million gift to the University of Kansas athletic department. So if there's a David Booth out there for Kansas, there's a David Booth out there for Michigan. And if that fine isn't in the 150 plus, it doesn't affect anybody from doing anything. And that would never happen, right? You could never. I mean, could you imagine them dropping a $150 million fine on a team or a school? That's not happening. But what I'm saying, to everybody's point here, the money's there. $1 million, the guy's worth $2 billion. It's there, and that's just for Kansas. We're not talking Michigan or Ohio State or Texas. $300 million gift, not bad.
That I think that could
I
buy
don't
you
even
some
wanna-
new footballs.
My family tree has to be connected to the Booth family somewhere.
Yeah, I
so
think
maybe
so.
I can get
I
a
looked-
piece of that.
I looked him up, Tom. You guys do look strikingly similar.
Old?
So maybe we should reach out to him. I'll put a call into his. My people will call his people.
I like it.
I don't even want to give a $300 gift to Indiana, much less $300 million.
Now, time out. When our predictions come true and we have the basketball version of Kurt Signetti on the sidelines this winter, Josh, and both programs are rolling, I think we could probably bleed you of that $300.
Well, yeah, maybe. I'll let somebody else pay for the players. I'll just enjoy it.
Well,
I'm still paying my money to Indiana, so.
we've got about 5 minutes before we need to go to break, and so we're going to come back. We're going to start the second hour with our preview of Indiana before we jump back into our over/under predictions in the NFL. But Josh, I mean, you and I were sharing texts last weekend and Tom and Ryan didn't know how to take it. They think we're joking. There's going to be 2 national championship trophies residing in Bloomington this year. They didn't say anything. For all you know, I was talking swimming and men's soccer. So
Could be, yeah.
Were you?
You weren't specific, so.
that's not what I was referring to. No. But all joking aside, you and I both know you don't learn a whole lot from scrimmages as far as huge big picture, hey, this guy is going to be an All-American sort of thing. But there are some things that you can learn by playing basketball games in August. And IU just wrapped up a trip to Puerto Rico. And the first game that they played, and I think we may have discussed it last week, was against a team that, from all descriptions, was basically a Division II level team. So good college basketball players, but not quite that Division I level. And many times, what keeps a kid at Division II from going to Division I is just size. I think their biggest kid might have been 6'8", we'll say. But then the next 2 games, they played against a Serbian national team that plays on the highest level. They have a guy who was drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks. They have a guy who played for Georgia last year, and a couple other guys who are getting high-level D1 looks. And in both games against that better competition, IU, the first night that they played them, got down 23 points at one point. And then next thing you know, you blink your eye, and IU is up 30. They outscored, wasn't it like 77 to 12?
They went on a 70-16 run.
70-16. And
that was without Tucker DeVries.
No.
Oh, he did play? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. They basically, outside of Dorn, what's his first name? Do you remember, Josh? Nick Dorn. Outside of him, they had everybody who's going to be available to them.
Who's a projected starter.
Yes.
Dorn, projected starter.
And so they go on to win that game comfortably. Then they turn around and 2 days later play that same team and get down 20 again, except this time they don't come roaring back and take a 30-point lead, but they take a lead when it matters most. And with 8 seconds to go, Lamar Wilkerson drives, dishes to, what's the kid's name from Belmont?
Reed Bailey. Dish, dunk. Then Wilkerson comes down on the other end, locks down their guard. They get a meaningless shot off, and IU wins again. Now, I will tell you again, I say it tongue-in-cheek, we're winning a national championship. 2 things I took from the highlights, because they couldn't show the whole game, and I think they were limited to, 2 minutes of highlights per game, Josh? Does that sound right? Yep, that sounds right.
In the clips that I saw, I learned 2 things. Number 1, it's going to be fun to watch IU basketball again. Because wrap your head around this stat, Tom. In those 3 games, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't IU shoot almost 93s in those 2 games?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so they attempted 212 field goals. I'm looking at the same thing that you looked at on our favorite site, Peegs.com. 92 of them were 3-pointers, and 113 of those shots were in the paint.
Yeah, wasn't it? They only took two twos that were outside of the paint.
So yeah, they shot 97% of their attempts were either 3-pointers or in the paint. And that's exactly how you have to play.
Sign me up for that. And the cool thing was I think it was after that second game, the stat that they had was IU had 91 possessions in the game. Now, obviously, you're not going to keep that up for the whole season, but Alabama led the NCAA last year at 85 per game. So if IU is able to keep that pace of play up again, I mean, how many years has it been since we've been known as the Hurricane Hoosiers? Yeah. Legitimately known as the Hurricane Hoosiers. People still call us that because it's just a nickname of sorts, but they could earn that. But the second thing, and I remember texting Josh about this play specifically. Tell me the last time any of you, well, no, probably even with Archie Miller. Maybe not. Yeah, probably with Archie Miller, too. How many times in the last 7 to 8 years have you seen a guy in an Indiana jersey that wasn't the son of a high school coach, because that was, what's his name, that transferred to Ohio State? See, I've already lost. He doesn't play for us anymore. I don't care. From Ohio. Gabe Cupps.
Yeah.
Outside of Gabe Cupps, when's the last time you saw a guy from IU dive headfirst on the floor because he wanted to, not because he felt obligated to, because he wanted to for a loose ball, win the 50-50 battle, kick it to an open teammate who knocks down a three? I mean,
it hasn't happened. It's been the Tom Crean years for sure.
With Jordan Halls and Will Sheehy and Victor Oladipo, dudes who were going to do that because it's in their DNA. Like, yeah. It was plays like that that got me excited, even though it was August basketball in a meaningless game. I'm like, that's the kind of stuff I can get behind. That is what Darren DeVries is building, and that is a team I'm going to be excited to root for.
And I know we have to go to break, but the two things that I'll take from it, 97% of your shots were either in the paint or threes. That's exactly how you have to play. Only 7 twos outside of the paint in 3 games. So when you're doing that, your ultimate efficiency at that point in time. And the second thing that I'll take, which I think is the most important thing, because I think it lays the groundwork for what we want the Darren DeVries, next 10 to 15 years look like. These guys were Puerto Rico. They were kayaking. They were out in the sun. They were having fun. They were team bonding. They were doing everything that you want them to do. And they got down 2 games in a row, a pretty solid team by 20 points. And in both games, they fought back to win. You know why? Because even though it was a meaningless exhibition game in August, those kids still had the competitiveness and the alpha male in them to go out and say, we're still playing a basketball game. There's still a winner and a loser, and we're not losing. They could have packed it up and got back to Bloomington or got back to the beach or done something else, but they were committed to play a full 40 minutes, and they were going to go out there everything they could to fight for those 40 minutes to come out as winners. And when you can see that competitiveness in August, they get more practice time, when they get everybody healthy, when they get more team bonding, you're going to see that play out. And that's really going to matter in early February when it's about 2 degrees outside and maybe you're struggling a little bit. That competitiveness and drive to win is going to stand out. So a couple major positives from the start of the Darren DeVries regime.
And imagine what that looks like when they're doing it in front of a packed assembly hall. Beyond the Game brought to you by Schutte Excavating, Gillenhowe Funeral Home, Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Buy-Rite Auto, Decatur County Recycling, and Russ Hubler Ford. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Shooty Excavating, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Batesville, Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Byrite Auto, Decatur County Recycling, and Russ Hubler Ford. Ryan Higginbotham, Tom Fleming, Jason Simpson live here in studio. Josh joining us live via satellite from Cheddar Nation. I don't know what is the favorite cheese up there, Josh.
Oh man,
what's the most popular?
Good ones. There's a lot of good ones. I would say that it's probably just going to be your standard aged cheddar, but you can't go wrong with just about any of them up here.
Is it impossible to go to a restaurant and not have cheese sticks on the menu?
Cheese curds.
Cheese curds.
Yeah.
Which are just basically, instead of cheese sticks, cheese balls, right?
Fried cheese. Yep. Same thing. Very, very similar, but yeah, it's if you're not getting cheese curds, then you get a funny look every time you order. So you might as well just go ahead and send them all to the table.
Well, and speaking of deep fried, I don't know, is the State Fair still going on or did it just end?
I'm not sure.
I think it might have ended yesterday. Was it the first through the 15th?
We were in State Fair territory. Did anybody hear because there's always something new deep fried. What was the new deep fried treat this year at State Fair? Does anybody know?
Couldn't tell you.
I didn't know if there's anything wild. Like, I remember when they first came out with deep fried Twinkies and then deep fried candy bars of different kinds and stuff. And I never had one, but I heard they were pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that you made it out of that area alive, Jason.
deep fried anything is, has to go to the top of the list.
I'm going to tell on myself, Josh. I have never in my life I've been to the state fairgrounds, but I have never been to the actual state fair, ever.
Not either.
Oh,
I haven't either.
We have an answer.
Uh-oh, we have an answer. What is the new deep fried treat this year?
Oh, Lord. Deep fried pork chop sandwich.
Okay.
Ooh.
Isn't that just called a tenderloin?
Yeah, kind of.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And then deep fried pickle Oreos.
Oh.
Oh, my Lord.
Pickle anything. No, thank you.
No.
Well, I saw your favorite Indiana Fever player had on TikTok. She went to the state fair, and it was a corn dog pickle. This thing was massive. It was literally a corn dog stuffed inside the casing with a pickle. I'm sorry, stuffed inside the casing with a corn dog.
Yikes.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, I've only been to the state fair twice, but it was for concerts both times, so I've never actually been there to walk around the fairgrounds.
You didn't cruise the Midway looking for chicks,
No.
Tom?
No, actually, the second time I was married when I went. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we can't because Josh, I had this on the agenda, but Josh pointed out, and we even said it at the beginning of the show, this is our last Saturday without college football. I mean, it does not get any better than that. So we have to start out with some sort of talk on the outlook for teams across college football. And I think we'll probably get a little more in depth with it next week. But, and I know we have Mr. Ohio State over here, and then there's this dude in here who likes Kentucky for some reason. I don't know what that's all about.
No.
Are you a Kentucky football fan as well, or just Kentucky basketball?
Just Kentucky basketball.
Okay. So we obviously have to start with the national title contending Indiana Hoosiers because they are the most important team in the state of Indiana. And yes, I'm saying that as a Notre Dame fan too. But I'm always IU above all else. So when they played last year in the playoff game, I was not happy that Notre Dame won because that meant IU lost. So we're just going to throw that out there. But, Josh, you kind of made a point of it. It makes no sense how IU is ranked number 20 in the preseason poll. But preseason being what it is, they are getting majorly disrespected already. But here's what I love about that. Look who their head coach is. So what's he going to do? All that is ammunition. Thank you. Hang it on the bulletin board. I appreciate everything you are doing to make my life easier as a coach because now that's just added motivation to the players. But make this part of it make sense to me. Okay? Right now in college football, active coaches, the best winning percentage for coaches right now in college football. Number one, Ryan Day has an 87 a .875 career winning percentage. Phenomenal. Like, especially now that he's finally broken through and won that national title. Mm-hmm. Is there an argument against him being the best coach in college football?
Well, he can't beat his rival.
Kirby Smart, he's got to be in contention there to be top. I agree with Ryan Day. I mean, 70-10 is not too shabby, but Curt Cignetti has a better winning percentage than that. He just doesn't have enough games to qualify.
We'll get to that. So and Josh, I was not stating that as fact. Like I was.
Oh yeah.
I was throwing that question out there. So Ryan Day is number 1. Dan Lanning at Oregon's number 2, a .854 winning percentage. Number 3 is Kirby Smart, a .847. And when I asked that question, I knew that Kirby Smart was in the equation. I don't know how you cannot say that Kirby Smart is, because he has that winning percentage, and it's in the SEC.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the Big Ten has not been the Big Ten that it is now for as long as the SEC has been the SEC. I think we can all agree with that. Although the Big Ten is the superior conference right now to the SEC, top to bottom.
You know what I'm hoping for? Paul Feinbaum said that if an SEC team doesn't win the national championship, that he's leaving the country.
I love it.
It's like, please.
Oh my God! I'm sure he will.
He said there are a lot of people that became Big Ten fans just because of him saying that.
Exactly.
Could we make sure that it's North Korea he has to go to? That would be wonderful.
Just stick him in the DMZ. Just stick him in the DMZ in Korea.
But number 4 on this list at .833%, one Curtis J. Cignetti, Esquire III. I have no idea if J is his middle initial. It just sounds like it fits, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Curtis J. Cignetti.
Yes.
I love it. And that middle name is Jaquarius, by the way. Curtis Jaquarius
I don't think that's true.
Cignetti at .833. And then rounding out the top 5 is Josh's dadgum favorite coach in college football, Dabo Swinney, at .793. So we all love, I shouldn't say we, because Josh and I love it for a different reason. People love to bang on Curt Cignetti for his Google me quotes and things like that. Right there. Google him. The proof is in the pudding. And I will continue to go back to this for as long as I live, because when you've been long-suffering IU fans, as long as Josh and I have, and Tom, you've just been around to see the landscape of it even longer than we. Outside of last year, statistically speaking, IU is the worst football team in the history of college football. I say team program. They had the worst winning percentage, or I guess you could say the best losing percentage if you want to put a little positive spin on it. They were the losingest program in college football history. Mm-hmm. But then Jaquarius Cignetti gets named the head coach, and in one season, has them in the college football playoff. But yet, we're not going to look and see who's still standing on the sideline. We're not going to take that into consideration when some people rank Penn State number 1 preseason. We're not going to hold it against James Franklin. He can't win a big game. But yet we're not going to look at the positives that Curt Cignetti take away everything else we're going to talk about when it comes to IU this year. You're not going to give Curt Cignetti the benefit of the doubt against old Tubbs McGee there at Illinois. But Illinois is going to be preseason number 12. And I could go on down the list when it comes to things like that. But that has to be where you start the conversation when it comes to IU. And yes, I know Curt Cignetti does not take a snap on the field in any game that they play. But when you have somebody like that in charge of the program and on the sideline, that has to mean something, and that has to be where the conversation starts with them.
Well, there's 2 reasons I think why it's the way that it is, and I don't agree with IU being number 20. I think they should be much higher than that. But part of it is because all the people that vote on that stuff are still thinking losingest team in the history of college football. Then they're thinking, well, Signetti had to replace a lot of players from last year because he had a lot of transfers, graduated, bringing new transfers in and new players off the recruiting trail. So it's like, show me. And I think it works on working the other way. I think Ohio State is ranked number 2 or number 3, depending on which poll, going into the season because Ryan Day is 70-10, not considering the fact that they have to replace 16 starters for last year. So, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but I think going into the year, IU needs to be higher, Ohio State needs to be lower.
Very interesting.
If you look at Indiana, excuse me, see what they did last year, and you know how they built their roster when it comes to transfers, and they did have to do a little bit of that this year, but a lot of those guys that are playing key roles are now second-year transfers and multiple years with not only Curt Signetti, but with Mike Shanahan as offensive court. Mike, no, what's the Shanahan? Yeah, is it Mike?
Yeah, it's Mike, isn't it?
That's what?
That's their offensive
what's the
coordinator.
Shanahan? Anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it's Mike.
So Shanahan is their offensive coordinator, and Bryant Haynes still is their defensive coordinator. Like, they kept both of their top-level assistants. They kept their strength. And
aren't they top 3
coach.
in the nation as paid assistants now?
They are. And so IU has stepped up. IU got arguably, I don't think Carson Beck is any good, but he went from Georgia to Miami. I don't think he's any good, but he was the number 1 ranked transfer quarterback. IU got the 2nd ranked transfer quarterback in the portal, in Fernando Mendoza coming from Cal.
Who put up the numbers he put up, literally running for his life last year behind one of the worst. And this isn't just eye test. This is statistically one of the worst offensive lines in college football last year, and he was still able to throw for over 3,000 yards, and I don't even remember how many touchdowns.
Yeah, Fernando Mendoza led college football in QBR in throwing outside of the pocket. So he can make those off-schedule plays. And with their offensive line, they returned multiple starters on their offensive line. They brought in a transfer from Notre Dame to kind of really, get that center position locked in. Carter Smith is going to be a first-round pick. He's only a junior, but he's going to be a first-round pick. He's their left tackle. And they reloaded in the running back room.
And didn't they get a transfer from Ohio State, too, on the offensive line?
They did. Now, he didn't play a ton for Ohio State, but one thing that he did do was practice against Ohio State every day for 4 years. And that says something right there. So he knows what a great pass rush looks like. So he's been in those situations. So there's depth up front. The running backs, they had to replace both of their running backs, but they brought in 2 running backs, one of them from Maryland, Roman Hemby, who's played multiple years in the Big Ten and really killed IU a couple times, and a guy from UAB that transferred. They kept their wide receiver depth, and Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt. So their offensive side of the football, with Fernando Mendoza, an upgrade over Curtis Rourke, as hard as that is to say, just from a mobility standpoint, the things that they can do with run-pass options now, and things along those lines, off-schedule plays, that raises their ceiling right there. I'm not even talking about the defense, which was top 10 nationally last year. I think they were number 1 in rush yards per game allowed. They were one of the top scoring defenses in college football. What did they do there? They returned an All-American at 3 different levels. And Mikhail Kamara, defensive end. So he's coming back. He had 10 sacks last year. So you have to think that that's just going to improve this year. They have Aiden Fisher, who's the heart and soul of their defense and just a tackling machine, emotional leader. He's an All-American at linebacker. And D'Angelo Pons, who is projected right now as a 5'9" cornerback to be a first-round pick. He's only a junior as well. So they have depth all throughout the offense. Their schedule lines up for them. Now, they do have 3 very, very tough road games at Iowa, at Oregon, and at Penn State. but Iowa's going to be what Iowa is, right? They're going to want to play a low-scoring game, and I think IU has enough firepower to go into Iowa and win. Oregon, I don't know what their quarterback situation looks like. They lost a running back to the draft. They lost wide receivers to the draft. Dan Lanning is number 1 or 2 or number 2 on that list, and he's done a great job. But this is the first time that he's really had to rebuild without a top-flight transfer quarterback coming in. You know, they got Dylan Gabriel last year. They were set when Dan Lanning got there. So they're reloading. And we know exactly what we already led the show off with what we think about James Franklin. I'm not saying Indiana's running the table, but I think Indiana has improved, and I think they will get the respect they deserve because I predict Indiana to go 11-1. I think they go into Oregon and win, and I think they go into Iowa and win. I think they're going to be 11-1, and I don't know if that's going to be good enough to get them into the Big Ten championship game with Penn State and Ohio State both maybe only having one loss. I think Penn State's only loss is to Ohio State, and I don't see Ohio State tripping up in the Big Ten. But in saying that, IU's going to put themselves right in that position again, and it's going to be hard to have them on any sort of bubble when they win at Iowa, they beat Illinois at home, and they win at Oregon.
Well, you mentioned it right when you first started talking about IU, about how they've upgraded in a lot of positions. And, yes, they did lose talent off of that extremely successful team last year. But On 3 is it would be kind of like 247 Sports and what was the other one Peegs used to be with? Rivals. On 3 is the same way, and they do transfer class rankings, but they do it a bit differently. It's not just an overall ranking of what they think the talent is. They do it. They try to do a base metric based on the talent you gained plus the talent that you lost, and then they get a number for that. And IU's transfer class was 17th nationally, and you can laugh, oh, it's 17th. Don't forget, this is still IU, folks. Like, yes, they had one good season, but historically, again, the losingest program in college football history. That's not lost on kids. And you know as well as I do, the way that coaches recruit, that negative recruiting's coming out. You really want to go there? Like, look at what they blah, 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 blah. But that tells you the power that Curt Cignetti has, too. And if we're being honest, that tells you the power of the NIL dollar as well. And IU has shown that they're willing to pay it. And there is, obviously, a much bigger focus on spending for athletics overall, and especially for football at IU. They're showing that in many different ways. And because like you said, Josh, with Shanahan coming back and Haynes coming back as defensive coordinator, those two are top 3 paid assistants or coordinators across college football. Like, you're talking Alabama, Tennessee, Texas. They're getting paid more than those guys, because I think Ohio State and Georgia are the only 2 coordinators who are paid more than them. Isn't that right? Does that sound right?
Yep.
And so you look at that. IU nationally had the 17th best transfer ranking when you look at what was lost and what was gained. They were ranked number 4 in the Big Ten. And so you start to look at that with what IU has coming back, with the fact that Curt Cignetti is your coach. Now, obviously, Josh, you and I look at it, and we're huge IU fans and things, so we're going to poo-poo any thought of that not being a slap in the face, because it is. But now we look at their schedule, and here's what I love about it, because we talked about it a few weeks back, and how the national talking heads, I can't believe IU dropped Virginia, and blah, 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 whatever. They're obviously going to win this game, but anybody that knows anything about college football, you look at the name Old Dominion, you're like, yeah, cool. The
Monarchs.
Old Dominion was a bowl team last year out of the Sun Belt, which Curt Cignetti is obviously incredibly familiar with the Sun Belt. And they not only return most of their playmakers, again, it's the Sun Belt, but they had the best transfer portal recruiting offseason of any team in the conference, so they're bringing more talent in. That's their opening game. Now, again, I'm not saying that they're not going to win, because they will. It'll still be like 56-12. But that is not St. Mary's Sisters of the Poor cupcake like people want to play it off to be. It is a nice first game for IU to play. But they win that. They're 1-0. Then the next two, it's St. Mary's Sisters of the Poor and the Blind Deaf School in Kennesaw State and Indiana State. Obviously, they're 3-0 with Illinois coming to town September 20th. Depending on what happens in front of them, because there are some other pretty big matchups on that day, there is an outside chance that Indiana, Illinois could be College game day. Again, I think there would have to be an upset or two to one of the other teams in front of them, because I think I looked at it, and there's some other pretty big-name games that day. But there is a chance that IU hosting Illinois on September 20th could be College game day. Let's all hope that it is. Everybody is in love with Illinois. Preseason darlings. They're going to be the Indiana of this year. Their quarterback was nice last year. He had a fine year. He lost every meaningful wide receiver that he had. Where's his playmakers going to be? And don't forget who's on the sideline, old Chubbs McGee over there. I keep forgetting his name because I want to say Burt Blyleven.
Brett Bielema.
Brett Bielema. Well, I had the buh, right? Brett Bielema. Mix in a salad, Brett. But now IU sits at 4-0. Then, on the national holiday, September 27th, my birthday, they're going to go to Iowa. They're going to win. It's going to be a tough game, and I personally think that will be the first time they're pushed all year, because I can see the Illinois game being exactly like Nebraska was last year. Going to be all this hype and hoopla, and is Indiana for real? And, oh, man, this Nebraska team, and they're coming in. Oh, man, this Illinois team. I think they just boat race Illinois, and they embarrass them. Then they go to Iowa, and that's going to be a physical grinder. Like, it's just going to be tough, knockdown, drag out. But I think they find a way to win that one, simply because when is the last time somebody not named Notre Dame or Ohio State slowed down IU? Like, didn't stop them, even slowed them down. Iowa is not going to be able to keep up with IU at a scoring pace. It's just not going to happen. Then they go to Autzen Stadium in Oregon, at Oregon on October 11th. Now, the nice part about that is they have the bye before going to Oregon, which will be a welcomed time off, because you're going to have two tough Big Ten games. Then you get that extra week off to get rested, to get healed, to prepare for Oregon. I totally agree with you, Josh, from the standpoint of the unproven freshman quarterback and things. And as dumb as this is, because you don't play against the stadium, but you play in the stadium, I think one of the X factors may be Autzen Stadium and how raucous that can get. But I also think this is the third true opportunity for Curt Cignetti to show what IU is. Are they ready for prime time? And if they're going to win one of the two games that I think they could possibly lose in Penn State and Oregon, I think it's the Oregon game as their one opportunity to win. As much as I don't believe in Penn State, I can't see IU going in there and winning. As much as I want to, and I want to believe that, and when the day that I watch that game, I will believe that they are going to win. If they're going to win one of those two games, it's going to be Oregon, I think. And then, to me, the only other opportunity that they're going to have to lose is going to be at Penn State. So, to me, the absolute floor, like the worst case scenario, is 9-3 because they trip up at Iowa as well. I don't think that's going to happen. I think their ceiling, like best case scenario, is 11-1. They lose one of the two, either at Oregon or at Penn State, and they're right there in the conversation not only for the Big Ten title game, but they're firmly locked in to a playoff berth yet again, back-to-back years.
Yeah, if you look at what the returning quarterbacks are for the top 25, and this is why I think obviously we all agree that Indiana should be ranked higher than 20th, but this is why I think Indiana should be inside that top 15, if not close to the top 10. You know, Texas has Arch Manning, and we all think that Arch Manning is going to be really good. He put on some good tape in the couple games that he played. But we don't really know what Arch Manning's going to be when he's the guy every single week. We know what we think of Drew Allar. They're ranked number 2. Julian Sayin we all think is going to be really good. But, again, we don't really know what Julian Sayin is going to be until he actually plays week 1 against Texas. And we're going to find out a lot about both of those quarterbacks early in the season in 14 days. Cade Klubnik coming back. Great for Clemson. Georgia, I don't even know who Georgia has. No idea. Notre Dame, their situation is up in the air. They have 2 quarterbacks fighting for a spot, so that's up in the air. Oregon, they have Dante Moore. His second year in the Oregon system, but the last time he played significant minutes, he played as a freshman at UCLA, threw for 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. That's not great. So we don't know what their situation is going to be. Alabama, who knows? I couldn't name who Alabama's quarterback is going to be. Then you have Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. And again, Carson Beck at Miami. They're ranked number 10. I'm not a Carson Beck believer. And I don't think a lot of people are. I think he put on a couple decent performances at Georgia. But when the spotlight was on Carson Beck, he crumbled. He Drew Allard it. He folded like a cheap soup. And then you have Sam Levitt at Arizona State, who's ranked number 11. Again, he had a great season last year. He's moving up draft boards. So I think they're settled there. But outside of that, like IU's quarterback situation is firmly inside the top 10. I know that you like Lenoris Sellers at South Carolina, and everybody's talking up Bryce Underwood at Michigan. Again, a true freshman. Everybody likes DJ Lagway, but wasn't great last year at Florida. He had some injury concerns, and that schedule's ridiculous for Florida. So I think Indiana is firmly within that top 10, and if their name was something other than Indiana, or Cignetti wasn't as outgoing as he was last year, Indiana would be firmly in the top 10. So I see him as a top 10 team. I see him as a playoff team again, even though they have 3 tough road games.
Alabama's quarterback, I think he is Jason's nephew. It's Ty Simpson.
Hey!
Redshirt junior, has never started a game before, though.
Think I could get a hit on that NIL money? Oh, cousin
Maybe.
Ty?
Maybe.
Oh,
It could happen. So, I mean, that's an unsettled situation. So I just feel really good with what I've seen and what I've read about Fernando Mendoza and returning everything that Indiana returns. They're underranked at 20th. I love that Cignetti gets the chance to use that really all year. He can one more year. They're all doubting us. They don't know what we're going to be. We were in the playoffs last year. We're better this year. We returned both of our coordinators. Like, the continuity is there. And, you know, if you trust quarterbacks like you should, IU has the advantage on everybody in or on their schedule, in my humble, non-crimson colored glasses.
Well, Tom is definitely not going to like to hear this, but the scheduling gods, even with a $20 million fine and show cause penalties for the former coach and no bowl ban or anything, I don't know that you could have a cleaner road to possibly the Big Ten championship or even a playoff berth than they have in the maize and blue this year.
I'm not surprised.
I didn't think anything of it until I just happened to pull up their schedule earlier this week. They start out hosting New Mexico. Now, this one gets a little interesting. They have to travel to Oklahoma, But does anybody believe that Oklahoma,
apparently ESPN.
This is Brett Venables' last chance. He better turn it around this year at
Exactly.
Oklahoma, or they're done.
I mean, so again, you're going on the road. Okay, that could be a tough game, but then you come home and you host Central Michigan.
So
without their coach for Michigan, because
Yes.
he went to Oklahoma, so that's why he's not suspended for that game.
Oh, that's
he's
cute.
suspended for weeks 3 and 4, which is Central Michigan and Nebraska. Is that right?
That's cute.
Yeah.
Okay, so now here is the Big Ten portion of their schedule. They travel to Nebraska. Not going to be easy. Dylan Raiola's okay. Like he's fine. But okay, they travel to Nebraska. Then they host Wisconsin. Wisconsin's going to be an absolute dumpster fire bad this year. I'm just saying. I think the only team they might be better than is Purdue. I think they're going to be that level of bad. Then they travel to USC. And I'm sorry, Lincoln Riley has I think he's fake good.
Hot seat.
Exactly. Then they come home and they host Washington. Then they travel to Michigan State, who I think Michigan State's going to be better, but Michigan they own that rivalry. They just do. Then they host Purdue. They travel to Northwestern and travel to Maryland. So where are you? Worst case scenario, they've got one loss, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, they're undefeated, and then they host little brother Ohio State.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to do it because they've lost,
Okay.
3 or 4 in a row?
4.
4 in a row.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going into Ohio State, Michigan has every advantage in front of them from a scheduling standpoint to be undefeated.
Yep.
I mean, I didn't exactly read off a murderer's row in front of them, did I?
No.
I mean, I think IU's Big Ten schedule is fairly easy, but they have to travel to Iowa, have to travel to Oregon, have to travel to Penn State. I didn't say any of those teams on that schedule, did I? And then they get to host Ohio State. So, Michigan, I told you at the beginning of the show, it's what the NCAA wants. Now, the NCAA doesn't schedule Big Ten games, but I digress. Speaking of schedule, we're going to jump into our football. We're going to continue our NFL picks here, but I just had to throw this out there from a scheduling standpoint. And listen, I totally get it. Tyrese Halliburton is not going to be in uniform at all this year. I get it. But the NBA schedules were just released this past week. The defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder, out of their 82-game schedule, have 34 nationally televised games. The NBA runners-up in the Indiana Pacers, 9.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 5.
9. I mean, could we continue the disrespect anymore for the Pacers and who and what they are? And again, I understand Halliburton is not there. But you can't tell me that yet again the Indiana Pacers aren't going to play an exciting brand of basketball that people would be more than willing to tune in and watch.
Well, one of the other things when it comes to the Pacers, everybody's talking about, well, they lost Miles Turner too. And I think on this show we've exposed Miles Turner for what he really was. You're going to have to get that production out of Isaiah Jackson, James Wiseman. Who's the other one? There you go. So they're going to have to get that production out of those guys. I don't think Miles Turner being gone, I don't see that as being as big of a deal as a lot of national talking heads are making it.
All we have to do anytime his name comes up is just say 36.
Yeah.
36. You're the 36th most efficient center. You are behind backups. So you can't tell me that the combination of that three-headed monster that you just mentioned can't equate to the 36th best center in the NBA. You can't convince me of it.
And one of the great things, if there's a bright side to Tyrese Halliburton coming out or being out this year, is Nembhard slides over to the point guard position. You put Matherin in as the starting shooting guard. This is his third year. He's going to be extension eligible after this season. So this is his time to show what he is if he thinks that he's going to get an extension this early.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, now, Tom, this is where this is going to get interesting. Do not remind us what our selection was for each team. We don't know. You can't cheat and look back. Because we selected whether we thought each team would go over under. Well, now we're going to go through each team's schedule and give our prediction and see how well we did. We'll go back and look. Okay. The first team, because we're into the AFC South now. We did the North last week.
Did we do all of it?
Yeah, we got through every team. We just didn't continue to the next division, right? Am I remembering this right, Josh?
We got through the AFC East, I think. Only.
I've
Yes.
only got 2 teams that we went through schedule by team. We got through all the over unders, but yeah, it took a while to get through 17 games for 2 teams. I thought we were going to do the NFC over under.
Maybe we just do like the Bengals, the Bears, and the Colts.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Well, let me get those schedules pulled up here then. Bengals, Bears, Colts. Got it. You got to love ChatGPT. It just goes out and does all the work for you.
It is pretty nice, I must say.
While this is churning and burning, I don't know why I hadn't yet. Because I absolutely loved the first season of quarterback when it was Patrick Mahomes, Marcus Mariota, and Kirk Cousins. For whatever reason, I hadn't watched the second season, which was over the 2024 season. I don't know if you guys have watched it yet, but I have a newfound respect, number one, for Kirk Cousins. That dude, there's class, and then there's what he is. It is unbelievable. But I got nothing for you if you can't watch that show and be a huge fan of Joe Burrow. That guy is, like, he's next level good. And any time there are rankings of NFL quarterbacks, if you don't have him in your top 3, we're just not watching the same game. Like, I had forgotten. I just remembered their overall record and things last year. Joe Burrow was on another planet by himself.
Yep.
And if there was a bad break to be had in games, they had it last year. They had every opportunity in front of them to win 14, 15 games last year and ended up, 9-8 and missed the playoffs.
Yep.
But as we sit here to go through their schedule, I don't remember what – I think their over-under was 10.5, I believe, if I remember correctly. But I don't know how each of us will go on this, but, man, after watching that just based on Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins alone, that if their defense can do anything this year, the Bengals are – dangerous.
Yeah, if you're the Bengals, if the defense can keep teams under 20, the Bengals should be in, if not win, every game.
Yeah. All right, so we will start with the Cincinnati Bengals, their first regular season game of the year, and Ryan, we'll just start with you. On September 7th, they travel to the Cleveland Browns.
That is a monster win.
I'm definitely going win.
Yeah, I'll go win there.
Yep, same. Now, again, remember the last 6 years under Zach Taylor, the Bengals in week 1 and 2 combined are 1-11. So they got to break that streak this year.
If it was anybody else other than the Cleveland Browns, I would have taken a win, but I can't see the Browns. No.
Yeah. Then week 2, they host the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is a win in my book.
That's a win.
Yeah, win.
I will also go with the win, even though I don't like that stat that you threw out there, Tom.
Yeah.
Week 3, They travel to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Oh, that is a 1 o'clock game. That is not Sunday Night Football.
I'm going to go with a loss there.
Okay.
I'll also go with a loss.
I think J.J. McCarthy gets his first big win. That's a loss.
And that's going to be the entire reason I say win is the fact that it is J.J. McCarthy. The Vikings are tremendous defensively.
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy never showed when he was at Michigan that he could throw the ball.
Exactly. And so that's why I think, to the counterpoint to Ryan is that's going to be the Bengals' first significant win. It won't be Joe Burrow's first. Just as a team, that'll be their first significant win of the year. Then week 4, Monday Night Football at Denver.
I'm going to go with a loss.
Okay. I got to believe in my Bengals. I'm going to go with the win there.
Ryan?
I'll go with a win.
The only reason I'm going loss is the fact that it's at Denver. If they had played them at home, I think they win. But I think Denver's going to be good this year. They were good last year. I mean, shoot,
Yeah.
they came into Cincinnati and gave them all they had. So, all right, then week 5, 4:25 game. They host the Detroit Lions. And, oh, by the way, I know that Josh hates them because they are a division opponent of the Bears. But going back to that quarterback show, I came away extremely impressed with Jared Goff as well. I'm just saying. And, man, I had forgotten what a juggernaut Detroit was last year. Even despite all of the injuries that they had on the defensive side of the ball, man, were they good. Yeah. So it'll be really interesting to see with their play caller now residing on the sideline in Chicago. It'll be really interesting. So to that point, I think the fact that it's at Cincinnati, I think that the Bengals find a way to win.
I'm going with a loss in that one.
I'm going to go with the Bengals. The Lions lost both of their coordinators. So it's going to be interesting to see if Jared Goff can continue that run of play that he had under Ben Johnson. I think Dan Campbell is still a great coach, but I'm going to go with the Bengals on that one. Just I'm not sure what the Lions are going to be this year.
Okay. This game is like the game that got away from them last year, all of last year. This is the Chiefs game that they lost in week 2. This is the week that they get that back and they win. This week is that week that I think is going to make or break, because if they lose that week, I think it just starts to go down.
Okay. The following week, October 12th, another 4:25 game. They travel to Josh's favorite stadium, Lambeau Field, to take on the Packers.
Win.
Yep, win for me.
Yeah, I'm going win there. I do think Jordan Love is a good quarterback. I don't know if I could name another player on their roster.
I know they have Josh Jacobs. That's about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a win.
Okay.
You had win?
Yeah, win, yeah.
Okay. And then short week, then it's Thursday Night Football. They host the Pittsburgh Steelers, the first division game I lied, second, because they open up with Cleveland. But they host the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. I am going to go with a win here.
Same for me.
I'll go with a win.
Yeah, that stat about home teams and Thursday night football games always tends to lead to the home team. So I'm going to go with the win here as well.
All right, next 2 consecutive weeks, they are at home. First versus the Jets. I'm giving Tom time to write this down.
That's
and
a
then
win.
the next one is against the Bears. They're both at home. So I'm going to go win on both simply because they're both in Cincinnati. And this is not – I'm not doing this to get under Josh's skin, because what's coming out of my mouth next is very positive. I think the Bears are going to be they're not going to be better this year. They're going to be really good this year. I truly believe that. I have that much faith
after
in
the show.
I have that much faith in Ben Johnson, especially after watching quarterback. I just think he's that kind of good. But I mean, Joe Burrow is still under center for the Bengals, and so I'm taking them both as wins.
Yeah, I'm going to go both wins as well. I think if it was at Chicago, it would maybe be a little bit different story. But, with looking at the predictions that we have for Cincinnati, I mean, I feel like we kind of have them hitting their stride. So, yeah, I'm going to go to a win against the Jets and the Bears.
I'm going to go with 2 wins, but to Jason's point, I think Chicago will be much better this year.
Wow.
And
a couple of you guys have the Bengals starting 8-1. The rest of us have 7-2. They'll take that. The
Yeah, no
Bengals will
kidding.
take that.
Okay, and then I think we all have win the next week because it's the bye week.
Yeah.
But then they come off of the bye, and it is 1:00 game. They play at the Steelers at Pittsburgh.
I'm going to do a loss that one. I don't think they'll beat them twice.
Yeah, I agree with Tom. Divisional game on the road, even coming off a bye week, that's a loss.
See, that's why I am struggling with it. Looking at it on the surface, I would take that as a loss, but man, coming off the bye, oof. I think because it's in Pittsburgh, I will go loss there.
They will probably be banged up from the Bears game, and especially going into the bye, maybe an extra bit of rest. But in Pittsburgh, I'm going to go with the loss.
Okay.
Okay, then that following week, they host the Patriots. I think that the Patriots hired the right coach. I think the Patriots are going to be really, really bad this year. That's a big win for the Bengals.
I am actually going with a loss,
Okay.
even at home.
I'm not a believer in Drake May, so I'm going to go with a win.
I'm not really a believer in Drake May, but I am a believer in Vrabel, so I'm going to go with a loss.
Okay.
Okay, then we have an exceptionally short week.
By the way, I also agree that Vrabel's going to really do something special this year.
We have a very, very short week. They play Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, the 27th, at the Ravens. That's a loss for me.
Yeah, that's a loss.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a 3-game losing streak that I'm picking, but I'm going with a loss in that one.
That's a Thanksgiving night game. 27th is on a Thursday.
Oh, ChatGPT says Wednesday. Yes, but I was going to say I didn't never know that they did Wednesday night games, so I was kind of
Christmas.
Anyway,
I'm going to go with a loss.
Okay. All right, so we're losses across the board on that one.
Okay, then the following week, and they always play them well, but December 7th they travel to Buffalo. I've got that. I've got to go loss. I mean, we've already picked that game. Did we already all pick it as a loss for the Bengals?
Yeah, it's a loss. Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a loss. Gosh, are they going to go?
Man, that's a 4-game losing streak. I got the Bengals on. My goodness.
Way to go. Oh, I've got them losing 3 out of 4 there.
Yeah.
Then they return home to face the Ravens. I think because you've got them losing 4 in a row, I got them losing 3 out of 4. They're back home. They always play the Ravens tough. And so I'm going to go win there.
Me too.
Win.
Yeah, clean sweep win there.
Following week, Sunday Night Football at the Dolphins. I think at that point the Dolphins are just in disarray, and the Bengals go to Miami and just run through the Dolphins.
I agree.
They're going to flex that game out of Sunday Night Football. That's a monster win.
Yeah, that's a win for the Bengals.
Okay.
And then the last 2 games are home games. First, it will be the Cardinals.
Is that Dolphins game on the road?
Yes, that's at Miami.
Okay.
Then the last 2 are home games, the Cardinals and the Browns. I'm going 2 wins for the Bengals.
Double wins.
Yep, I'll go with you. 2 wins.
Win. Let's see. So that means 3, 4. So Jason is saying 13-4. Josh is 2, 3, 4, 5. So 12-5.
Oof.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ryan is 12-5. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The Bengals fan of the group has the lowest number and is 11-6.
And the thing is, you look at all of we had a 1 13-4, 2 12-5s, and 1 11-6. Every one of those is conceivable for the Bengals this year.
Yeah,
Every single one, because so many of those where it was like, man, I don't know which way to go. This sounds like a really dumb statement because every game could be slated this way, but it's going to totally be dependent on what their defense is able to do.
Yeah.
Are they able to get a few meaningful stops and not turn it into track meets? Because the teams that they're playing, as good as Joe Burrow is, the defense has got to get a stop. Because the other team's defense is good enough to get a stop against Joe Burrow in so many of those games. And so,
I did peek back now that we've picked all the games. Bengals over-under was 9.5, and we all picked over. So
okay.
works with our – want to do
Makes-
the Colts next?
Do we have enough time to do the Colts?
We can run through it quick.
Okay.
If everybody's got time.
Yeah, I've got
yeah.
time.
And real quick, last
Yeah,
thing
go
I
ahead.
want to say on the Bengals. They have that 5-game stretch between the Vikings and the Steelers that they could conceivably go 0-5. I don't see them going 5-0, but at Vikings, at Broncos, Lions at home, at Packers, and Steelers at home. I mean, that could be an 0-5, and then towards the end of the year, they're at the Ravens, at the Bills, at home against the Ravens. So, other than that, their schedule's super manageable, but that's half their schedule that are pretty high-end games, and they still have to go at Pittsburgh. So it's a really tough schedule. I can see where that 9-5 was set. I think they're going to go over it, which we all do, but I understand why Vegas has them at 9-5 or 9.5 wins.
And it's scary just how accurate Vegas is. All right. The bumbling Colts, the fighting Anthony Richardsons. Good Lord. So embarrassing. All right. So they open the season hosting the Miami Dolphins. Ryan?
That's a win.
Okay, Josh.
I mean, they haven't won an opener. I don't even know how many years, but it is the Dolphins, so I will go with a win.
I'm taking a loss in that one.
Ooh, Tom's going to have them win in 3 games. As much as I hate that stat and their ineptness in openers, I'm going to take the Colts in this one. And that's at home, by the way. Then the following week, they host the Broncos. That's a loss for me.
That's a loss.
Okay, Ryan?
That is a AR-15 pick 6 waiting to happen. That is a 20-point loss.
Loss. And
Well, he has to be healthy.
Is
to
that
be able to
at Denver?
Mm-mm.
No, at home. Okay.
At home. Next one is on the road at the Titans. The Colts always seem to play the Titans well, and Mike Vrabel is no longer there, and Josh's favorite quarterback, Drake May, is under center. No, I lied. He's in New England. Who's
Cam Ward.
Cam Ward, that's right. Too early in the year. That game might break a record for combined interceptions.
It might be 3 on each side.
It could be. There could be more interceptions than the total score. The total score could be 3-2, and there could be 6 or 7 interceptions among both quarterbacks. But I'm going to go with a win.
I think the NFL is going to flex this to a midnight game instead of a 1:00 game because nobody's going to watch it anyway. But I'm going to say the Colts win at Tennessee.
I'm going to go with a win there.
All right. Well, I think after this game, people are going to start asking for Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen's head. I'm taking the Colts to start off 0-3, so they're going to lose that game.
I love it. The race for Arch Manning is on, baby.
Yeah.
All right, the next week they are at the Rams. Now, to me, on paper, this is an easy loss. You look at it, but There is talk that Matthew Stafford's back is so bad he may not be able to play this year.
Yep.
Who's the
Now-
backup for the Rangers?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, good Lord. Now here
He can't stay healthy either.
But here's the rumor mill that if there is enough evidence that Stafford is not going to be able to play this year, that the Rams are behind the scenes exploring ways to get Kirk Cousins from Atlanta. So, we need to asterisk this, because if Stafford is not able to play and Jimmy G is the starting quarterback, I think the Colts win. But if Kirk Cousins is their quarterback, they lose. And if Matthew Stafford is their quarterback, they lose too. I know I'm not allowed to pick that way, but I'm the one in charge of the picks right now, so that's how I'm picking. By golly.
I'm assuming health, and it's also Sean McVay versus Shane Steichen, so give me the Rams.
Okay. Ryan?
I'll go with a win.
We're going to keep the losing train going. They're going to lose that one too. It's going to be 0-4.
All right. The next week they host the Raiders.
I'm going to say a win.
You are. I am a big believer in Pete Carroll. Kind of like you just said, Sean McVay against Shane Steichen. This is Pete Carroll against Shane Steichen. I'm actually going to take this as a loss, even though I think the Rams are better than the Raiders.
Okay. Ryan?
Let's see. Well, never mind. That did not work. I think the Raiders are going to be bad this year, but I don't think they're going to be as bad as losing to the Colts.
Oh.
So I'm going to go with a win.
0-5, baby. 0-5.
Oh,
my God.
Man.
Tom's going 0-17.
The next week, they host the Cardinals. I think they get back on the win train. They win.
Kyler Murray is the quarterback for Arizona. That's a win. That's number one. Win number one for the Colts.
The Colts either have Daniel Jones or AR-15, right?
True.
Well,
true.
they'll probably both be injured by then, so it'll probably be Riley Leonard. Look, I think Marvin Harrison's pretty dang good. I think he's going to catch more touchdowns this year. I think the Cardinals' offense is pretty good. I know they're traveling across the country, but I think they'll split the Raiders and Cardinals, so I'm going to go with the Cardinals.
Okay.
So a loss for
Ryan?
the Colts.
See, this is where my false hope comes in. I'm going to go with a win, and I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, they're going to win the Super Bowl, and then they're going to lose 15 straight.
Wow, Ryan's got him at 5-1.
Well, I think
my.
we're all going to agree on this one as a loss. The next one is at the Chargers.
Oh, that's
a loss, yeah.
40-point loss. Holy crap.
Okay. Then they return home and they host the Titans. I think that's a win for the Colts.
I'll give them a win.
Ryan?
That's a loss. Cam Ward's going to throw 6 touchdowns.
I'm going to go with a win. So I got them at 2 wins right now.
The following week, they travel to Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers dices up the Colts. I think that's a loss.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a loss.
That's a loss. Yep.
Okay.
All right. And then the next week, they travel to Berlin to face the Falcons. Even though they lost the games, it wasn't because of Michael Penix at the end of the year last year. I think Michael Penix is going to be a very nice NFL quarterback. I already think he's better than Anthony Richardson. I think all of that traveling to Berlin, even though both teams have to do it, I think the Colts are just mentally – I think they're pudding. I think their brains are just mush. They are so mentally weak. That is a loss.
Okay. I'm going to go with the loss as well.
I predict that Anthony Richardson stubs his toe on the flight over there and has to sit out another game. So another loss for the Colts.
Okay, Ryan?
The last time the Colts went overseas, they had the worst overseas game. It was 10-6 against the Patriots. They're going to lose by 15. That's a loss.
Okay.
Then 2 weeks later, they get 2 weeks off. Huh. Didn't know that was a thing. 2 weeks later, they traveled to Kansas City to take on Patrick Mahomes and Taylor Swift's boyfriend.
You said at the Chiefs?
At the Chiefs. Do we even need to ask? That
No.
is, oh my God, they get beat 1,000.
Okay, Ryan?
Patrick Mahomes has never beat the Colts. That is a win.
Okay.
Oh my
You can tell a
gosh.
true blue Colts fan.
He is drinking the Kool-Aid. Then they return home and face the Houston Texans. You all know that I think C.J. Stroud is fine. I don't heap the praise on him that the national media does. I think he's fine. The Colts always tend to play the Texans well. I think because it's at Lucas Oil, I think that's a win.
Okay. I'm going with a loss. I think C.J. Stroud comes back and plays more like his rookie year than he did last year. Josh or
Yeah,
Ryan?
I'm gonna say that's definitely a loss. I think the Colts have fired Chris Ballard by that point in time.
Ooh, I like
Okay,
how
Ryan?
you think.
That's a loss.
Okay.
All right, and then they travel to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. At that point, I think there's talk about what in the world do we do? Is it
Shadur
time?
Sanders starts for the Colts. There's a bold prediction.
I think maybe by this point in the season, there's talk about is it time for Jacksonville to move on from
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence. Is it time for them to be looking into the future? The Colts don't seem to travel well to Jacksonville, but I think that's a win.
Okay, I'm going with a loss.
I'm going with the loss as well.
I can't remember the last time they won in Jacksonville, so I'm going to go
I
with
think it's been
loss.
like 9 years or
It's
something.
been forever.
Yeah, but in the past, hadn't it been like opening of the season?
Yeah.
There's
They-
been some. And then there was what?
Week 17.
Yeah, when they should have
Oh, that's right.
could have gotten to the playoffs.
Yeah,
and
they took
oh,
Jonathan Taylor off the field. It's always a good
Yep.
plan. The following, so they have to travel to Florida, and then they get rewarded with a trip out to Seattle. Could we get two teams further away from one another? That's a loss. Remind me, who's starting for Seattle this year?
Sam Darnold.
That's right.
Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold.
Backup is Jalen Milroe.
That is a
That's a-
loss for the Colts.
Okay.
That's a loss as well.
That is a tremendous loss.
Yep, same.
Then the 49ers come to town. I don't think the 49ers are going to be as good as they have been the last few years, but they're good enough to beat the Colts. That's a loss.
Yep, loss for me.
The Colts will be trending on a number one or potential top 3 pick in the draft. So, of course, they are going to beat the 49ers at home on Monday Night Football just to get themselves out of position to draft a quarterback.
You
So
were,
49ers with a win.
you were going to see people with bags over their head on this game. This is whole. Brock Purdy. Now, Brock Purdy, we all have our differences on Brock Purdy, but Brock Purdy's going to throw for 380 and have 4 touchdowns at some point. This is a loss big time.
Ryan has the Colts defense as the worst in NFL history.
And that's actually supposed to be their bigger strength this
Exactly.
year is
Yeah.
their defense. Then the Jaguars come to town. That's a win.
Yep, I'm saying win.
I'm going to give them another win, just ruining draft picks at this point in time.
Yeah.
I'll go with a loss.
Okay.
And then to end the season, they travel to Houston to take on the Texans. That is here is the only reason that I give them any hope of winning is at that point Houston might be resting starters, but
Yep.
I think that's a loss. And this is when Shadur Sanders will start.
Yeah. I've got
So
him with a loss to finish the season.
So the Texans will have nothing to play for by clinching the AFC South already. And if Chris Ballard doesn't get fired, this is exactly what the Colts do in job preservation mode for Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard. They win to win in the season with a 3-game winning streak and hope for next year.
Oh, good Lord.
Okay.
They lose this game because Riley Leonard starts and throws a pick 6.
and C.J. Stroud's backup throws 14 touchdowns.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Yes.
Josh and I have the Colts finishing at 7-9. Ryan has them at 6-11, and Tom
3 and
has
14.
them at 3 and 14.
And-
so hold on, Tom. What was the over/under set at
Colts
for the Colts?
7.5.
The over/under was 7.5,
and we all picked under with the games.
Oh, okay.
Ryan and I picked under. Josh and Jason both had over.
Oh
Dang
man. Oh, and that, folks, is why.
Do y'all want to change one of your picks?
No,
Be right.
no.
No, we were close. We were close though. We were just off by a half a game.
But look at how, again, like that just goes to show you why Vegas is the genius that they are. You and I both are sitting right at the number and picked opposite by going through the games.
Yep.
So that right there is exactly why I wanted to do it this way, because I think it's fun to give you, like, you just hear the number and you're like, oh yeah, they'll definitely do that, or there's no way they'll do that. But then you start going through the games. So next week we will we'll do the Bears, and then maybe we'll throw in somebody like the Chiefs, or one of the air quotes here popular teams.
I should be in studio next week.
Oh, coming back to the Berg, huh?
Coming back to the Berg.
Look out, folks. All right. Well, Beyond the Game is brought to you by Shooty Excavating, Gillenhowe Funeral Home, Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Buy-Right Auto, Decatur County Recycling, and Russ Hubler Ford. For Ryan Higginbotham, Tom Fleming, and Josh Lee, this is Jason Simpson. We'll see y'all next week.